Was anybody really surprised? I doubt it. But it's nice having somebody confirm it. Welcome to Rising Anxieties. This is the podcast that I do every week where I talk about what's worrying the animal ag industry because, or as they prefer to call it, but I forgot, the animal abuse industry. And what's worrying me, which is a very, very big topic. I try to limit that. Probably some of which is worrying you. Hopefully not as many things as worry me because, that's what I do. All right. So don't forget we're a podcast and we're on YouTube. Please subscribe and hit like wherever you listen. And let's get into it. Let's take a look. Our first story is from our favorite commentator, Hannah Thompson Weeman. It's on meetingplace.com. Navigating activism, what 2025 taught us and what 2026 will demand. She's worried about you. Happy to tell you. All right. As 2025 comes to a close, she says, it's clear that the pressures facing animal agriculture did not simply continue this year, they intensified. Now, you might be thinking she's talking about bird flu, other diseases, tariffs, all sorts of possible things, the environmental destruction that they're causing, just all sorts of stuff. How perhaps their influence with the government is not as secure as they used to be. No, she's talking about you. From escalating activist funding to evolving legal strategies and increasingly coordinated pressure campaigns, the landscape grew more complex by the month. It's just always so nice to hear how much she's worried about us. Because sometimes I don't think we're getting anywhere. And then I read these kind of things and I think, oh, yeah, we're making a difference. All right. Many people associate animal rights activism, she says, with dietary persuasion or campus protests. Well, certainly dietary persuasion, yeah. Campus protests, I don't know. But 2025 reaffirmed what our monitoring has shown for years. The movement is heavily funded, highly coordinated, and shifting towards systemic influence rather than calling for individual behavior change. Yeah. Though, I mean, I would have to say that individual behavior change is still key to the movement. But all this other stuff, absolutely. All right, she's really worried about how much money we have. You'll be surprised to hear. Based on publicly available financial data, the groups featured in their animal activist groups web, which is this ridiculous chart they make about how we're all connected to each other, bring in more than $865 million annually. She does leave out the fact that some of these groups are like Humane World for Animals, the ASPCA, and most of the money they're bringing in is probably not for farm animals, but details. That's not what she's really worried about, though. She's really worried about private foundations, and she's specifically worried about open philanthropy. And this did not used to be an issue for them about our movement, and it sure is now. All right, since 2016, they have awarded $88 million to broiler chicken welfare, $40 million to cage-free reforms, and $40 million to supporting alternatives to animal products. I mean, that is the kind of money this movement did not used to be able to muster. She also talks about pressure campaigns, which things are intensifying, store demonstrations. I haven't seen one of them in a long time. Scorecards, boy, we've been doing them since the beginning of time. Investor resolutions. Now, I was surprised to hear she was at all concerned about investor resolutions, and was taking it to be, she works for the Animal Agriculture Alliance, and they get money from farmers and ranchers, put those terms in quotes, to fight us. And so they like to, they do like to make us sound maybe a little bit more dramatic than the movement is. But, she points out that resolutions focused on animal welfare all failed at shareholder meetings. Yeah, that's what I had heard. So I'm not that worried about them. But, she says, activists use the process to gain meetings with leadership and push for incremental commitments. Did they? That's kind of cool. Thank you, Hannah, for letting me know. In another recurring conversation topic at conferences, she's talking about our conferences, activists emphasize that local engagement is where they expect to see the most success. This is a story I love because clearly we get nowhere at the federal level. I mean, we barely have a federal government left. And even the state level is intimidating and overwhelming and really hard. If it's an ag state, It's really hard to make any progress, but she's talking about municipal ordinances related to fur, foie gras, and what they call quote unquote extreme confinement. Well, fur, I mean, we've kind of won. I mean, it's not over, and there's still plenty of animal suffering, but we're well on our way to winning that. Foie gras, yeah, I mean, certainly, Pro Animal Future is pursuing foie gras initiatives, and I'm not saying they're not important, enormously important, but you do have to make a leap from foie gras to then more commonly beloved foods. But extreme confinement, yeah, that's what we're going for. Incrementalism remains central to their philosophy. Start with a small ask, secure a win, and then continue pressing for more. Yeah, that's how it's done. That is exactly how it's done. She talks about direct action everywhere. She talks about cross movement collaboration, particularly with climate justice activists. Yeah, I wonder why we're in. And it's interesting that she calls it climate justice, isn't it? Almost like she thinks it's right. Legal focused animal activist organizations. I'm glad to see she's focused on them since, that's an area of activism I'm particularly fond of. Focused on expanding standing, influencing regulatory oversight, and integrating climate litigation strategies into animal agriculture cases. Transparency battles, FOIA disputes, and regulatory authority over cell-based meat were also emphasized. Yeah, all of these things are really true, and I'm really glad to hear that she's concerned about them. She concludes by saying the pressure is not slowing down, and neither are we. Well, neither are we, Hannah. Neither are we. All right, our second story is an upsetting one. I mean, you already know the most upsetting news, but it's about Zoe Rosenberg. This is from Ag Daily, so it's the industry's point of view on what happened. DXE operator sentenced, fined in California poultry theft. Prominent animal rights activist Zoe Rosenberg was sentenced this week to serve 90 days in jail for stealing 4 chickens from a Petaluma poultry slaughterhouse in Sonoma County, California. Also, she has to pay $102,000 in restitution. 2 years unsupervised probation, maintain employment or remain enrolled as a student. There's no question that Zoe will continue to do that. If they weren't sending her to prison, she would have an easier time. Stay away from Purdue facilities in Sonoma County and have no contact with her collaborators in the crime. Which, these are the people she works with. These are the people who are friends. It's just unbelievable. Rosenberg has long served as a major figurehead of DXE, including aggressively lambasting national FFA and 4-H programs. I mean, she lambastes a lot of things about the industry. I don't know why they focus particularly on that, probably because they think it sounds sympathetic for them. Rosenberg claims the birds were sick and neglected, and activists even named the birds. Well, of course they named the birds. Like, what do you think? Poppy, ivy, aster, and azalea, and placed them in an animal sanctuary. And they do point out that Zoe she's not a terribly well person. She has type 1 diabetes and some other health challenges. She can't apply for alternatives to jail until she's been in for 30 days. And after that, she could apply like for house arrest or whatever. And she's also, I didn't know this, she's requested a pardon from Governor Gavin Newsom. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's about time. I would like to hear about a pardon of somebody who's not like horribly guilty of hideous crimes, which is mostly all we hear about. All right, from Veg News, we have a story. And this is a story that you've probably heard about. I mean, it certainly got around a lot, and there's a lot of talk about it. It's at this Reddit thread. I don't really go on Reddit very often, which I probably should. Inside the Reddit thread that blasts Big Meat for hiring people to take down veganism. This is about, this was written, it was a Reddit post written by somebody who claimed to be a whistleblower who had been hired by the industry to disparage veganism and vegan organizations. And he talked about it on this Reddit thread. I think there are some people who question the validity, and the point is you can't trust anything you see online. So particularly if it's anonymous, but even if it's not. But Veg News nicely boiled down 20 of the points, I won't read all of them, that this person made in their post, and it certainly sounds legit to me. There has long been an organized financial incentive to discredit veganism online, and they pay people to do this. Emphasizing the concept of quote unquote big vegan was one approach used. I have to admit I never saw a post talking about big vegan. and it's pretty funny. The work involved faking negative vegan experiences. So, all the health stuff and trying to dissuade people, listing nutrients, and that and claiming that they're not available from vegan diets, even though, it's just like a different level of availability or whatever. A cubicle buddy claimed veganism caused him to have OCD, and a bunch of people on WhatsApp believed it. A tactic involved embedding extremist vegan personas into threads. That sounds true. Cherry picking data, false claims. They all were required to sign non-disclosure agreements. They didn't get paid a lot, $17 an hour. Yeah, there's more here, but you get the idea. Like, like there was a really big deal made about this online in a lot of venues I saw, but was anybody really surprised? I doubt it. But it's nice to have it, having somebody confirm it. All right, one story from Sentient Media this week. Factory farms in Iowa generate 110 billion pounds of manure per year. No one tracks where it's going. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. What kind of harm could that do? Just 110 billion pounds of shit. Um, all right, this actually started with a pig farmer because this is an article that was in a collaboration between Inside Climate News and Sentient Media. So one of their major sources was this pig farmer, Gene Tinker, but he used to work for the Department of Natural Resources. And when he was there, he says he unsuccessfully advocated for the department to update its rules on applying livestock manure as fertilizer. And what's interesting is the DNR apparently requires these pig producers to submit documents outlining their plans for spreading livestock manure, but then they don't check up to see where, and how they actually spread their actual manure. So who knows? Isn't that convenient? Because you can make it sound really good. Oh, they have to submit all this document. And the article also points out that it would be very easy to come up with those records of where and how the manure is spread because they have to hire hauling companies and the contract with the CAFOs to take the manure and apply it to fields and whatever. And also, nitrate pollution of drinking water has risen in tandem with the cancer rate in Iowa. And Iowa is one of only 2 states where the rate of new cancer cases is on the rise. And I have heard that the pollution situation in Iowa is terrifying. Uh, and and the article goes on with a lot more detail, but one of the points they make is that one of the reasons they leave out this information or allow them not to report this information is because it's proprietary information. So this was one quote from this guy Tinker. What's so proprietary about how much manure you put on a field? Especially if you're telling the government ahead of time how much you're allegedly going to be putting on the field. All you're doing is providing the record so people can verify you actually did what you said you were going to do, which really belied this like claim that it's proprietary information. I mean, if it didn't sound like bullshit, so to speak, um, already, obviously you have to say how much you're going to put on the field. Like, how could it be proprietary to tell whether you were actually telling the truth? All right, our final story is just, one of the tragedies of animal agriculture. That's wolves. And this article makes me so mad. This is from Drovers, which is, of course, a meat industry site. Wolves are not going away. Ranchers push for practical management tools. There is a change of tone here because they used to like talk about wolves like they were the devil incarnate. And now they've got it that the public is just not on board with that. So they're talking about conservation. This is by Angie Stump Denton. While the reintroduction of wolves has led to significant challenges for local ranchers, some say they are willing to deal with the animals if they will return to their natural habitat. Well, their natural habitat is all that land that you're grazing your cows on. That is their natural return to their natural habitat. You think that you can define what a wolf's natural habitat is? Who the hell do you think? Well, we're trying to be conservationists, says Luke Morgan, Lightning Bolt Cattle Company general manager. Yeah, I bet you are. Wolves are here to stay. We've got to have some tools to make it more holistic for people, wolves, and the rest of the animals. Holistic? What the hell? I mean, did they just grab this language from what they think will sound good? Holistic. Morgan manages 2,500 mother cows, and that's how they call them, mother cows, Like, of course, they're mother cows. That's what they're doing out there. They're producing young cows that can be eaten. But mother sounds so, sympathetic. Another guy, Rick Roberti, we don't want to get rid of all the wolves. Yes, they do. We just want them managed in a way we don't suffer so many losses, for them to return to their natural habitat. This other cattle producer, Amy Anderson Fitzpatrick, she's talking about her family. So is she really running it? I don't know. Her family raises cattle in southern Oregon during the grazing season. The base ranch, called Rancheria Ranch, Rancheria Ranch, is in the mountains of Oregon, and it's a mix of owned land and permitted grazing. Yeah, that would be known as wolf's natural habitat. Fitzpatrick explains state and federal laws severely limit ranchers' ability to defend their livestock. Only non-lethal hazing is allowed, and requests to remove or euthanize problematic wolves have been denied. Oh yeah, I bet. So what they want, they want coexistence management tools that would allow flexible, rapid deployment of non-lethal and, when needed, targeted lethal tools. Yeah, that's what they want. They want to be allowed to kill the wolves legally. To address habituated wolves near people and livestock, they have zero fear of humans. Yeah, well, if they do have zero fear of humans, they're really stupid. And I don't think wolves are stupid. If we can instill a little fear, push them back into wilderness areas and keep them more of a wild animal, you're grazing your cows on wilderness areas. Like, you don't get to define. I already said this, didn't I? All right. The other thing they want is collar. They want to be able to collar the wolves. Of course, they want the government to pay for all of this, I'm sure. He would also like to know how many wolves there are. Would like to see a deer survey done. Well, go right ahead and do that, honey. Nothing. What's stopping you? You don't want to pay for it, do you? If there's not enough prey, you're pretty much saying they're going to eat cattle. So he wants there to be more deer so that they can eat them. Fitzpatrick expresses frustration with public perception. Yeah, public perception, it's one of the few animals that people actually do seem to have some sympathy for. And how the pro-wolf sentiment on social media downplays or ignores ranchers' struggles with the predators. Maybe they don't ignore it. Maybe they just don't care about your struggles. Fitzpatrick says her family remains committed to ranching. Well, maybe drop the commitment, while calling for a level playing field between ranchers and wolves. Are you joking? That would allow effective protection of their livelihood. I don't care about your livelihood. Roberti summarizes that sensible management policies will allow both wolves and ranchers to coexist. But he stresses that unless the balance is restored and ranchers' voices are heard, both the rural way of life and broader ecosystem could face severe consequences. Really not my problem. Really not my problem, your rural way of life. Like, go live in the country. I don't care if you live in the country. Go live wherever you want. That doesn't mean you get to kill everybody who's already living there. And that's it for Mariann's rant and this week's Rising Anxieties. Before we go, that is our end of year fundraiser, and it's really important to us. We're in this amazing situation right now that we have a triple match for any of our listener donations between now and the end of the year. Just go to ourhenhouse.org/support.